Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this special bulletin. I am not an industry insider. I am not a veteran of any sort of community or developer or a investor of anything except for my own personal time and money. What I am genuinely is a customer, a gamer, a player, an enjoyer of the little digital ones and zeros on the screen. And I like to think occasionally I'm a rather logical person when you present information. I have the ability to come to my own conclusions without any sort of manipulation from outside sources. I like to form my own opinions. Funny, yes, I know. And there's been a bit of a discussion as to what a success and a failure is and what sources are the gold standard. And you probably know by now what I'm talking about. Up until recently, I had never heard of this company, Circana. They're the gold standards of the industry when it comes to sales and numbers and reporting information on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis for investors, for industry to know what direction to go in. A little bit of snippet on their video games. They do more than video games, so a little bit of single source of truth. Except I believe there's caveats to that truth. Some of the numbers that they give out, like lack of digital sales from one platform to another. But hey, what do I know? The single source of truth for video games. No longer just an entertainment medium. Gaming is a lifestyle. As a result, video game publishers and developers are under increased pressure to deliver the content their gamers demand, and they're failing fucking miserably as far as the AAA studios go. I'm finding more and more enjoyment out of the independent scene. AAA studios don't seem to be listening to their customers. Let's see what it says. At the same time, manufacturers must know how gamers interact with their content. Oops. And hardware so they can power the best gaming experience. For being the gold standard of the industry and putting out the information that investors and dev studios need, where are they going wrong? Because there's been quite a good bit of AAA flops that have reared their ugly head over the past few years. Our data and industry expertise ensure you can respond to market changes and your customers' needs. You get complete, accurate information with caveats about your product's market share and mind share, plus industry insights to help you track trends, identify licensing partnerships, find business opportunities, and grow your business. Access the latest insight of gaming trends and opportunities, performance, and what's ahead. Well, that's a whole lot of proclamations on what they do and what they try to do, at least. But the reason why I'm bringing this up, because as a representative, good old Matt Piscatella, video games are a cultural powerhouse, the figurehead, the poster child for Circana. He's came out and had a few things to say about a few games as of late. And me personally, I'm just looking at it, I have a few things to say. I have my own ideas. Now, if you have an industry and investors that want to just hang on the edge of their seat on Circana's word, sure. But I need an explanation. I need to understand why. Because if I look at this information, statements versus results, I am a little confused. I'm not one to sit there and pass judgment 100% to say that Circana is cooking the books. No, you can get into a whole hell of a lot of trouble. But what I wonder is the caveats, the little asterisks they put in their charts from sales of one month to another. Does not include digital Nintendo sales. Does not include Japan sales. Does not include digital marketplace sales on the Xbox platform. Does not include one thing or another. How conclusive is that data, and how much can you rely on it in order to make any sort of financial decision if you are an investor or a developer? I'm just asking questions before you go roasting me in the comments. I get it. They are used as an industry standard, the gold standard. Sure. I don't understand why, based on a few track records, few statements. April 23rd, 2025, Matt Piscatella, the man, the myth, the legend himself. Assassin's Creed Shadows was the best-selling title in March. And this is how. Sure, best-selling title in March. Instantly becoming the #2 best-selling game of 2025. Year to date, Assassin's Creed Shadows finished the month ranked first in full game dollar sales on Xbox platforms and second on both PlayStation and Steam. That is the full statement. Don't want him to be taken out of context, but you got to look at that in March. This was posted in April. Article right here, November 1st. Assassin's Creed Shadows is the lowest selling release across the last 5 entries. I don't know about you, but I don't think that is a success. When you fail to reach projected goals, regardless of whether you made money or not, I don't see that as a success. But hey, that's just me. That's just one title, right? Again, per Circana report, despite lukewarm reception, Star Wars Outlaws is the 3rd best-selling game August 2024. Debuted in 3rd place in August because Star Wars Outlaws was Star Wars Outlaws was such a fantastic game, right? Highly popular, did massive numbers for Ubisoft, except, unfortunately, well, it didn't. Holy crap, that's 10 days apart. Is that 10 days apart? No, it's a year apart. 1 year later, after disappointing Star Wars Outlaws sales, Ubisoft Studio Massive says, quote, voluntary career transition program is just an ongoing evolution, but it's sometimes known as soft layoffs. They had over 100, what's the number? 160 something layoffs at the studio responsible for Star Wars Outlaws that Circana said was just such a massively bestseller. I'll get to my point. Of course, the big hubbub, the big to-do, the big discussion has been over Ghost of Yotai. Matt Piscatella, because he's the representative for Circana, because of course it's going to be from him. With 1 week in the market, sales performance of Yotai is basically flat to that of Tsushima, launched July 2020. Holy crap. And the PS4 installed base at the time was significantly higher. So again, we have some caveats, some addendums. Basically flat. And of course, Jason Schreier wants to get his little ugly head in there, as maybe he's not trying to sell a book right now, holding on to the information. But anyway, but now we come to the leak that came out today. Now, obviously, take this with a massive cavern of salt, especially considering who it's coming from. Coming from none other than Mark Kern, Grums, providing a leak. Regardless of your opinion, or even if you have a poor opinion of Mark Kern and his dealings, this grain of salt, personally, I'm inclined to believe it, because neither Sony nor Sucker Punch have said a single thing about the number of sales for Ghost of Yotai. Sales fall short. Disappointment for a sequel, to the point of selling 650,000 fewer copies, but obviously it made more money, right? Because, according to good old Jason Schreier, it's $10 more. Or maybe it was $20 more. $60 versus $70. Here's the thing. Studios do not make a product in order to make a little bit of money. No one's going to sit out there and spend $2 million, $3 million, $4 million to make $50,000 in profit. Yes, that's just a small example, but I hope you understand what I mean. Sales were 16% less. And of course, Mark says, while the game is profitable, never thought it wouldn't be, honestly, but I still find it funny that they're not screaming about the numbers. It's a disappointment, and I do think so. If you sold less than the previous game, especially considering how celebrated Tsushima was, why aren't you even talking about the sales for the game? But that's not necessarily, Ghost of Yotai is not necessarily the point of this video. The point is, when you have a group like Circana and like Matt Piscatella, he comes out and says, this game is selling well, it's selling great, top of the charts on this day, top of the charts on this month, top of the charts in March, and then all of a sudden, it's revealed, lowest selling game. It sold great. And then the studio shuts down. It's sold wonderfully. It's doing gangbusters, but then it falls short of sales. as an investor, speaking from there, how can you continue to rely on that data? It's almost as if, to me, I would look at this as maybe, just maybe, Matt Piscatella is the Grim Reaper of some of these studios. Comes out and talks about how great the sales of one game, one AAA game or another AAA game, when the final numbers are abysmal. Sure, I'm not trying to say, and I'm never going to say, that, oh, he's trying to spin things. Like, no, I firmly believe that as of April 23rd, 2025, that Assassin's Creed Shadows was the best-selling title in March. However, that means absolutely fuck and all when it comes to the long-term grand scheme of things in the lifespan and success of a video game, of a product in general. You can be the top #1 movie. Let's do this. Let's give an example. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness made hundreds of millions of dollars opening weekend. Gangbusters, broke records, all that kind of stuff. And then the numbers fell off a cliff. But for that weekend, it was #1 for that weekend. So in March, Assassin's Creed Shadows was #2. And then suddenly it fell off a cliff to the point where it was the lowest selling game in the past 5 entries. Same thing, Star Wars Outlaws. An entire studio going into soft layoffs. So maybe it's just me. But as a content creator, maybe not as an investor, as a content creator, as a proclaimer on social media on whether or not a video game or a product is financially successful, perhaps, maybe perhaps, Circana might not be the so-called gold standard that we use on whether or not a game is successful. So, because just this alone, best-selling game, studio faced layoffs. That's never going to be the win you think it is, using Matt Piscatella as a source for whether or not a video game is successful, because the only thing Circana talks about is the sales for that month. Very short-term information that personally I would never use to judge the success of anything. We've seen it time and time again, but you make that decision for yourself. I just had questions. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Leave a like, leave a dislike, do all those nifty little things as YouTubers beg you to do. And hey, I hope to see you on the next one.